Hello everyone, this is Defense Politics Asia. Massive changes again, breaking news, and I'm almost saying this almost on the daily basis. This is going to become the new meta, the new norm. So anyway, in terms of conclusions, the first thing first is this interesting raid of the Ukrainians trying to land special forces into the rear positions of the Russians, but the failure of it shows the Russians actually invested huge number of manpower to guard the entire coastline of Crimea all the way up to Kherson, which is unbelievable. The amount of manpower you need to dedicate to guard all the front line is just amazing. So the failure of which for the Ukrainians to actually to drop forces, special forces to create havoc is pretty much a suicide attack. No, for sure. I'm sure the soldiers involved knows that, because if you land, how are you going to be extracted? I have no idea how you're going to be extracted. So this was a massive failure, but it was also a massive revelation of what the Ukrainians can do and what the Russians have done. And Krinky continues to hold. Interestingly, information coming out from the Russian side continues to claim Krinky is under Ukrainian control, at least partially. So that's interesting. That's a relief to know that we still have this happening over here. So we actually have been wondering over the past few days, is Krinky still is there any Ukrainian forces over there? So nothing much to really talk about over at the Zaporizhia front, except that the Russians are doing some very suspicious things over in the Kayamsky sector. The entire Robotine sector have bogged down by the Ukrainians, so that's interesting. And of course, we can't really not talk about this AVDIIVKA front. The Ukrainian lines is going to be here. The Russian forces is now breaking through in multiple directions. They're going to fan out because there's not much more things over here. The mixed fight is going to be for Umansky, and the Russian forces is going to swing down after Umansky, let's say, and hit Netelovy and break the Ukrainian hold of Pervomaisky. And the Ukrainian forces must start building this entrenchment. I have mentioned in yesterday's conclusion, the Ukrainians must start building all these entrenchment over this new line, linked up all the front line, all these fortresses. If not, you're gonna not be able to hold the Russian onslaught. And if this breaks, there is really nothing holding back the Russians to hit towards Pokrovsk. And if they go to Pokrovsk, they don't even need to go for Kramatorsk and Slovyansk or Konstantinivka, because the Russian forces can just fan out in this direction, cut out all the resupply routes, and just do a massive encirclement. So let me zoom out a bit. If the Russians take Pokrovsk, they can just hit up the road and block off all the reinforcement route, and they hit all the way up to Izium, totally ignoring the entire Sivers front and the entire Donetsk Bakhmut front. That entire front line can be ignored, and then the Russian push can continue towards Oskil, and everyone just meet at Izium and all these things. Of course, this is very, very big arrows. All these are massive arrows, but I'm just saying that there is no need for the Russian forces to actually fight in Slovyansk or Kramatorsk. These are no precious cities for the Donbass people. For the Donetsk People's Republic, these are major cities, and they would definitely prefer not to have the city destroyed, and they prefer not to fight there. So if I'm the Russian planner, I would not plan to fight in Slovyansk or Kramatorsk as if this is Bakhmut. I would definitely try to go around it and just strategically encircle this entire area and force a Ukrainian mass withdrawal out of this region here. So the fact that we are now seeing this push towards Pokrovsk is interesting. Pokrovsk is a massively important transport hub. You can see that all these roads, the road also extend from Pokrovsk all the way to Konstantinivka. It goes all the way down to Pervomaisky towards Donetsk. They move down to Konstantinopil, which feeds Khorakhove, which feeds into the Marinka sector. This is reinforcement and a resupply coming from Zaporizhia and Dnipro, and it also go all the way up to, you know, the Kharkiv region. So this is a massive strategically important place. And if the Russians penetrate all the way there, and take this ground, the entire front line for the Ukrainians, the entire logistic will just go into a mess. And the Russians can just have this massive, you know, thumb over there, and not thumb, you know, it can just be you know, just like this, you know, and it will be powerful enough to cause massive logistical nightmare for the Ukrainians, and it will collapse a lot of the front line much more easier. So this push at AVDIIVKA, you know, is not a small thing. It's a massive development. Ukrainians, if they do not make a real effort to hold this line, I've already gave you a warning, Ukraine, you have to hold this line, or you're gonna have one hell of a problem. Even though, you know, I don't believe the Ukrainians can win this war at all, but if Ukraine continue to lose ground massively, then it's going to compromise their ability to negotiate in the peace negotiation. So the worse they lose, the worse their terms is going to become, which is why I was not very encouraging of the Ukrainian counteroffensive, because it's a massive waste of equipment and troops, because they could have been used to hold a DMZ. But now you don't have the troop to hold a DMZ. The most DMZ-ish place is now getting breakthrough. So that is one massive hell of a snafu. So otherwise, the other front line, of course, the most important thing other than the AVDIIVKA front is the Russian capturing of Ivaniske. Ivaniske is falling. Ukrainian forces are holding in vain. The front line keep pushing westward. And very soon the Ukrainians will have to escape into the forest and become Red Riding Hood. So this is just there's no positive thing to say. I'm a bit sad for the Ukrainians. I can't say anything positive. And of course, as I mentioned in the SITREP, the Ukrainian counterattack over at Pivdene and New York is just going to be useless, because this diversionary attempt is not going to draw Russian forces towards this front line. It's just not going to do it, because the people defending over here is not the same army as the one that is fighting in the AVDIIVKA offensive. So it's just not going to work out. Everything is shit. Everything is terrible. Anyway, thank you for watching. Do press the like button, subscribe. I'll see you guys in the next update.